chairman of the National Media Commission, Yabodu Ayabuafo, was come under intense criticism from the media fraternity for describing the decision by the Ghana Journalists Association to blacklist 2 politicians accused of aiding attacks on journalists as dysfunctional and unproductive. The GJA declared a media blackout on MP for Ewutu Senya East, Bevisao Kumsi, who is also the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, and a Member of Parliament for Yendi Farouk Aliu Mahama, both accused of assaulting journalists from Cape FM and CTTV in the heat of the MPP parliamentary primaries. The NMC chair proposed victims rather explore legal avenues to fight such acts of impunity against journalists.
To the recent puerile, vicious, and violent attacks on journalists for exercising their primary obligation of informing our people, this has resulted in the equally unilateral decision of the GJA in calling for a boycott or blackout on such people. While the approach is popular, it is dysfunctional. Many years ago, I courted displeasure and contempt when the Ashanti Region chapter of the GJA issued such an order against the Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor Ellis Otu. As is usual with some of our journalists, my dissent was taken as being too known. I was taken to the cleaners and described in very pejorative ways as a turncoat, inferimu, treacherous, traitor against journalistic interests. I still hold the position that whilst it is disheartening for journalists to be attacked, the unilateral resolve to black out or boycott is not the most productive reaction. We cannot fight impunity with impunity. I will support any effort to ensure that justice is done against all such deviant acts rather than blackout or boycott. We must follow the rule of law and the due process. Condemning such acts is in order, but not the blackout or boycott.
Well, the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Albert Jumfo, shocked and disappointment in the comments of the NMC chair, described the posture of Yabodu Ayabuafo as unfortunate, adding the GJA exhausted all relevant processes before issuing its blackout directive.
What has the NMC done to promote and ensure independence of the media and the freedom of the media in this country? You abandon your call for your constitutional mandate, and a journalist, a veteran journalist for that matter, is part of us. Today, you are heading a state institution or a state organization which is supposed to be independent, will now disagree with a entire media body. We have 500 bodies that came together to make this decision. So if you disagree with even GJA, you disagree with, are you saying you also disagree with media organization, disagree with Giba, disagree with printer? It is saying that I don't be any team. And it's unfortunate that comment it is the responsibility of the NMC to provide a neighboring environment for journalists to thrive. After that, we see NMC sanctioning journalists, media houses, go and apologize, go and do this. One of top NMC sanctioning perpetrators for attack on journalists. He will tell you that all this report didn't come before them. He will say that all this report didn't come before them. Meanwhile, during the invasion of the new studio, nobody reported. They were the first people to issue the statement, but nobody reported to them. When politicians, government officials attack, you sit down there and say you are waiting for a report to act as NMC, which is supposed to protect journalists. So if you can't protect journalists and you cannot ensure a safety enabling environment for journalists, why would you disagree if we are taking abnormal decisions?
So let's broaden the conversation. Dr. Abena Enimwa is a senior lecturer at the Department of Communication Studies at the University of Ghana, and she joins us via Zoom. Doctor, you're welcome to the pause here on Joy News. And if you can kindly unmute for me. Right. Doctor, you're welcome to the pause here on Joy News, and if you can unmute for me. Right, so Dr. Benin, if you can hear me, this is the pause. You're welcome. So we'll try and re-establish contact with Dr. Abena Enimwa Benin with the University of Ghana School of Communication Studies. So, Doctor, you're welcome to the pause here on Joy News. Right, so we are looking at the comments by the President of the Ghana Journalists Association, and of course the counter reaction from the chairperson of the National Media Commission. Yabodo Ayeboafo is of the view that you cannot fight impunity with impunity, and that the GJA should resort to legal process to seek redress. The GJA is of the view that what the position is taking, that is blacklisting politicians, is the way out, at least for now, whilst they look at other options. So we are looking at the two issues, whether or not it is the right way to go, and whether the NMC has a position with their sound judgment in a position espoused by the chairperson of the National Media Commission. Let me try and see if I can establish communication with Dr. Abena Bannon. Doctor, you're welcome to the pause here on Joy News. Yes, and if you can unmute for me, Doctor.
You are unable to hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. It's perfect now. And it's a pleasure to have you on the pause here this afternoon as we look at the work of the media. Now, you have been following some of the decisions taken by the President of the Ghana Journalists Association. Two decisions taken on the Minister for Fisheries and Agriculture, and of course, the Member of Parliament for Yendi, Farouk Aliu Mahama. The GJA position is that black them out from the media space until there's finality brought on the matters in question. Is this the way to go in terms of protecting journalists in the line of their duties?
Well, perhaps before I comment, just to take our minds back to some of the discussions we had in April 2023, when the Department of Communication Studies issued the State of the Ghanaian Media Report. Chapter on the safety of journalists reported that at least some 38% of those who had been sampled had experienced attacks in the line of work. An even bigger number, nearly 70% of those sampled, said they were aware of colleagues who had experienced attacks in the line of work. Altogether, therefore, quite a good number of the journalists sampled expressed feelings of insecurity. They generally felt unsafe for doing the work of journalists in the country. If we remember these discussions, then perhaps we would see why we are where we are. Report after report has suggested that the rates of attacks on journalists for doing their work, the rates are increasing, but the action that you would want to see to make a statement to perpetrators that this will not be countenanced, such action doesn't seem to be as swift nor even existent in quite a number of instances. And so if you have a situation where journalists are being attacked, they don't feel enough action exists. Action by states, action even sometimes by the media organizations, because we found that there isn't quite a lot of support for these journalists when they've been attacked. And so perhaps if we have that context, we would understand why the association has gotten to where it has, where it thinks, you know what, they're not going to solve the problems for us until we take charge and try to deal with it ourselves. And so perhaps we see why we have arrived where we are today. Is it the best option? Is it the only option?
That is exactly my question, whether this is the best approach.
I want to say that I can see where both parties are coming from. As I've just shown you, the DJ has reasoned, perhaps is overwhelmed and frustrated, tired, and think this is the only way to go. But I see reason also in the argument by the NMC chair. He raises the question of can you deal with impunity with impunity? And that is something for us to think about. There is also the other issue actually about compliance. So you see, when you do a media blackout, a news blackout, ideally you should have everybody rallying and being willing to say, yes, we are going to fight this with the news blackout. Again, as we reported in our State of the Ghanaian Media report, there's quite a bit of political capture in our media space. So there are quite a number of media houses that are politically exposed or colored. They either belong to NPP persons or NDP persons. So this blackout, its effectiveness, if you wanted everybody to rally, chances are that you may not be able to achieve that because quite a number of the media houses belong in a certain, if you like, group that they wouldn't be minded to collaborate with the GJA on this directive. So it makes the
enforcement difficult.
A bit difficult because you wouldn't have everybody rallying to say this is what we are going to do together. But I can quite understand why the GJA has gotten to where it has gotten to.
Right, so
journalists are feeling unsafe, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of commitment to acting on it. Even the Office of the Mechanism for the Safety of Journalists that was put together by the National Media Commission, the Ministry of Information, etc. And when we did the report, one of the things was that a visit to that place didn't seem as though it was very, very functional. So if that was supposed to be the place for seeking remedy, and it is not that active, then when journalists go there with their complaints, not much result is going to be seen. And we know also that the turnaround time in our law courts can be very long. And so again, when a journalist has been attacked, the results may not turn around that quickly.
All right.
So I can see where the journalists are coming from, but I do also see the queries that have been raised by the NMC chair.
Yes, I'll bring you to that, but let's stay a little longer on the potency of the GJA directive. And you made a very good point. The GJA itself is an association. Not all members, not all journalists belong to the Ghana Journalists Association. So for the directive may not have its full effect in terms of its application. When some may be of the view that I'm not a member of the GJA, and for that reason, I do not come under the directive of the GJA. And so enforcement becomes an issue. But on the other side of it, and going back to your report on the state of the Ghanaian media, the people you interviewed and said that they had been attacked in the line of their duty, did they get compensation? Was there finality brought on that particular matter? Because I'm asking this question because the GJA president said that when the alleged attack was visited on the City TV journalist, when he called the police officer in charge, the police officer told him that he saw everything and that they were going to prosecute the member of parliament, that the IGP had instructed them to do so. From that time up to now, there's not been any movement on that particular matter. So how do we get to a point where people respect the work of journalists? Vis-a-vis looking at the fact that the GJA directive may not be so potent after all, because it's just an association and not everybody belongs to the GJA.
You're right in the background you gave. You referred me back to my report, and so
yes.
Perhaps let me go back. So we asked journalists in that chapter, we asked journalists and what they think about the posturing towards the safety of journalists, whether, for instance, if we took the security services did they consider this as a priority? The body language we got from the security services is the safety of journalists a big deal to them. About 65% of the journalists said, no, we don't think so. And if you took the judiciary, again, if you ask journalists, do you think that the judiciary prioritizes issues of safety of journalists? Nearly half of them said, no, we don't think the judiciary prioritizes the safety of journalists. So we've come from a place where a story has been building up, a story that has attacks, a story that have attacks for which redress do not seem to come, and a story that then means that perhaps for some elements in Ghana, a culture of impunity is growing where they think you can attack journalists, there will be no consequences for doing so, and so you're free to do that. And so we just have to keep reminding ourselves about that, so that even those journalists who are not members of the GJA or journalists working with, say, partisan political media, and therefore whose obligations may not be to the GJA but to their owners or the political parties, etc. Even those journalists should want to join the drive to fight for the safety of journalists. I'm just not too sure, though, that the blackout is in itself and on the face of it a full-on solution. I've raised some of the queries.
Right.
In addition, so you want to look at the fact that really we want to promote free expression. The blackout actually means also silencing certain voices, certain stories that ought to be heard because a certain person is part of that story. But I don't think we have very simple answers on this issue. I think that we all need to be thinking through these things a bit more. What really are the best options, for instance, so that we fast-track legal redress, so that justice is seen to be done when journalists are attacked.
And what's your suggestion, Doctor?
Say again?
I asked of your suggestions. I mean, if the blackouts may not achieve the desired result, what then should be the option?
I do wish, for instance, that the state empowered Office of the Mechanism for the Safety of Journalists would be seen to be more proactive. At the time we collected data on the report, we didn't see too much happening there. I do hope that at least by releasing the report and signaling that attention, a lot more focus is going into making that place work, so that when a journalist is attacked, they know that I can get action when I go and report it here, because the police is looking there, the judiciary is set up to fast-track cases that are reported through that office, etc. If we have that system well set up, then it's easier for journalists to know that we can seek redress when we go to these places. Because you see, individual journalists and even individual media houses may not always be able to pursue redress through the law courts also. It can be expensive, it can be time consuming, it can be resource consuming. And so we need that integrated mechanism like the one that the NMC and the Ministry of Information set up to be functional, to be proactive, so that it becomes that middle ground for journalists who have been attacked to go to and seek redress.
Let me give you two classical examples, and then perhaps you can tell me whether the position adopted by the GJA addresses this very concern. So I have two colleagues of mine. One was assaulted by political party tax after the 2012 elections. That person, as we speak right now, cannot work. He's virtually bedridden. The other one went to cover a demonstration at the police headquarters. He was beaten and had head injuries. In fact, he's been going through series of surgeries. And even as we speak, he is still not out of it yet. These two, virtually, they may not have what it takes to work and work fully because of the assault that they were subjected to by attacks belonging to political parties and alleged police officers. One, the matter has been in court for years. There's not been any finality. In fact, the police at some point came out to say that they were unable to produce the CCTV camera that will bring to fore the evidence that will suggest that indeed the reporter was beaten by these police officers. So when you have a classical case where the state in itself is unable to bring some finality and compensation to these individuals who, as we speak, cannot even work fully, then it begs the question, what then do we do if the GJA position is also not feasible?
I guess we'll have to go back to the state having to set up and doing its work, and civil society, people like yourself and myself, pushing them a bit more to do the work. We've raised some of the challenges that the GJA brings, and they are very valid challenges. It is not in any way on my part to say that I don't see reason in where they've gotten to. I totally can see their frustration. There is research evidence that gives reason for journalists in the country to say we are tired, we are being attacked, etc. So there's evidence enough. But we do need perhaps to strengthen our opportunities to use the legal remedies. The fiat, or what's the name for it, that the GJA president would work, but to some extent, because of some of the things I have told you, that not all the journalists are going to feel obligated, not all of them are going to mobilize and rally behind it. And so while it may be effective to some extent, in the longer term, civil society and all of us ought to push harder and ensure that the more institutionalized systems for seeking redress are better instituted and promoted and used to bring solutions to some of the problems that we have. You mentioned your two colleagues. They are fortunate to be working perhaps in a media organization like yours, and so maybe there is some support. We actually saw that a lot of the media houses, there even isn't any support at all for them. And so if the journalists went on the field and were attacked, they were left to their own devices as to how to survive. As a country, this is not good. This is not okay for the way we are treating the very people who are supposed to bring us the information by which we make the decisions with which to live our lives. It is not okay. Our leaders, everybody within the media space should be worried. And so perhaps an opportunity to join the call to say that let those who are mandated to deal with these problems set up. The NMC will look to you as mediators, as regulators, the Ministry of Information, other regulatory agencies, state entities, etc., and the Office for the Mechanism of the Safety of Journalists especially. We need to see that it is working so that people can trust that when they are attacked and they take their reports there, they will see finality, they will see justice, and that justice would have been obvious to have been being done.
And as a watcher yourself, do you think that the NMC has done enough in terms of protecting and promoting the work of journalists? I mean, I understand that per their mandate, they are supposed to, register, regulate, and monitor activities of the media. For a section of the media, fraternity, any case brought against the media house before the NMC, you can best be assured that the NMC will rule against the media. And some have even questioned how the appointment of certain persons to the board of the National Media Commission when they have political biases.
Well, you bring such a big discussion in this issue. I think that we need an even bigger platform to discuss exactly how do we make the NMC more functional, more impactful. We've had quite a number of discussions with the NMC. We know that they have real constraints that may stop them from serving us the way by law, etc. We expect them to function and to serve our interests. So those constraints perhaps may be the reasons that will be cited for whatever challenges we have with the NMC. Is that enough? No, because we do have to serve our journalists better. And so perhaps there is more that can be done with the NMC. When you read, again, I take you back to that same report. One of the things we had asked was who journalists thought was proactively fighting for the safety of journalists. NMC didn't come up. The name that came up was the Media Foundation for West Africa, for other entities that came up. NMC's name was not one of those in the forefront. That itself is a signal that there are challenges that we need to pay attention to. And you see, we have to put our resources where we want them to work well for our interest. If you continue draining the NMC as we hear they are resource drained, then perhaps we'll continue to have for want of a better expression, the reasons we get when we raise questions about our expectations of their functioning.
Right, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Dr. Abena Enimwaye Wabenim. He is a senior lecturer at the Department of Communication, University of Ghana.